On this week's episode, the peacock struts its feathers. Struts its feathers. Major changes to Gamescom and Comic-Con. And are we ready for some Justice League Dark? All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, the Lakers Fast Break, and Inside Sports Fantasy Football. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He's our own Artemis Fowl of Pop Culture Cosmos. You got to check out what he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com. Also, his great show, Topicocalypse, and of course his awesome book, which you can get today on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Congratulations, you suck. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. What's up, man?
What's up? What's up? I'm just chilling, man. Chilling, doing a little podcasting. I have been reading about Artemis Fowl, and I didn't read the books, but I have been reading about his journey to Disney Plus, and I am curious to see how that does.
As am I, my friend. It is going straight to digital now. It is bypassing the theaters, similar to what we're seeing with Trolls World Tour, My Spy, and a couple others. Disney has decided in one of its many reshuffling as far as the number of movies, what's coming out, when is it coming out. They've decided to go ahead and forego the theaters for Artemis Fowl. I think they should do the same for New Mutants, but they are going to go ahead and put Artemis Fowl straight to Disney Plus in the middle of June. So looking forward to that and seeing how that will run, seeing how that will play out. But I wanted to ask you, as we're starting to see a little bit more movies being just biting the bullet and sacrificing the dollars at the box office, and this is something you and I have talked about in recent episodes, and we're going to be talking about it again. I don't think it's always the right move. Trolls World Tour, it won't ever make up the entirety of what it would have made at the box office and then going to digital, but it's still, with its record numbers, still doing fairly well, and it's going to recoup some of those losses. Do you see the move as a good one for Disney when it comes to Artemis Fowl?
I don't know if I'd say it's a good move. I know Artemis Fowl is based on a really popular series of novels that a lot of kids are familiar with. I see it more as a necessity than anything else. Like, it's one of those films that has been, they've talked about it for a long time. There is, an audible hype over this film, and I don't know if holding off on it and waiting to release it, because they're going to have a bunch of big films hitting theaters as soon as theaters reopen, and I don't know if putting Artemis Fowl in the midst of that is a great idea.
So it looks like Artemis Fowl is going to Disney Plus, like I said, bypassing the theaters. I'd like to see, and as we mentioned this before, if you want to go ahead and check back with one of our previous episodes a couple weeks ago on the reshuffling of the decks of many of these Disney films. There's 2 or 3 at this point in time don't even have a release date anymore that had one that got taken right off the board by Disney. And one of those movies is New Mutants. And New Mutants, I think, should go ahead and follow suit, because that's been something that's been delayed and delayed and delayed. And any fan interest in the property has probably just come and went. So I think they should go ahead and put that straight to Disney Plus. So maybe it would find some new life there. I think in the right cases, as we've seen, like with Trolls World Tour, and also, like I mentioned before, with Netflix, with the Cloverfield Paradox, bypassing the theaters and going straight to digital, in some cases, I think is a smart move and would be, I think, following suit for the New Mutants.
Yeah, I'm confused why they don't just put it out on Disney Plus or even on FX, because it is something that Disney sounds. It makes me wonder if they have special plans for this movie, because it's one of those things that just has been, it's been kicked to the curb so many times, and there's so many things that have prevented this from coming out. and it feels like it would just be something that would be great to put out on Disney Plus as opposed to putting it into theaters, because it doesn't really sound like Disney has a lot of faith in it anyway. So why not just put it out there?
I agree with you. It's just something, just put it out there at this point. I think it's a lost cause. We saw with Dark Phoenix what happens when you are stubborn enough to try and continually think that you can put this movie out and people will actually watch it. I mean, some of the Fox properties that they have or that they were given in this Fox Disney merger have just truly been lackluster at the box office. And I think it was probably in their best interest to go ahead and send it straight to Disney Plus so it feels more special. So it probably would have garnered more interest. But unfortunately, that's not the case. But we'll see what happens when Artemis Fowl comes to Disney Plus in June, in the middle of June. In fact, June 12th to be exact. So we'll gauge and see exactly what the kind of reception that it gets when it comes out in mid-June. But we are going to have a great episode. We've got a lot of things to talk about today. We're going to be talking about Gamescom, Comic-Con, Justice League Dark, the Peacock Network. We're going to be talking about all that stuff. Plus, we also got two great guests coming up in Noah Ian Fine talking a little bit more retro gaming, and also as well in the second part of her April TV update, it's Jessica Boggs from the TVRatingsGuide.com. So she's going to be talking about more about the TV scene going on right now with all the ratings and everybody staying home and whatnot. So glad to hear her once again on the show. But my friend, I wanted to ask you this. 51 years, my friend, of Comic-Con comes to a screeching halt. It gets canceled. I think that's probably one of the biggest news items of the week. Comic-Con, something that you and I look forward to seeing all the events, seeing all the going down to different halls to see the different presentations, all the shows, all the movies, all the hope that these fans have, and all these productions have when they go ahead and talk about their great projects, unfortunately has gone by the wayside because Comic-Con is canceled for this year.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. It is something that needed to happen, obviously, but at the same time, like, I'm curious, did they say it was going to go digital, or are the people who are going to attend, are they going to do some kind of digital presentation, or is it just gone completely?
At this point, there's been no indication of any type of digital event. They could change their minds. They could make something special out of it. We'll have to wait and see. But at this point, it's been just wiped off the board completely until next year. I hope that they're going to follow the lead of Gamescom. Gamescom is also, as far as a live venue, is canceled, but they are having a digital event over the course of a few days later this year. So I'm looking forward to that because there's still going to be a lot of great presentations there, and I think a lot of game announcements will still be taking place, and we'll still be able to see a lot of good trailers and all that, especially the European markets, which have really embraced the Gamescom atmosphere. They're still going to go ahead and be a part of this great digital event for Gamescom, even though the live event, which approaches 200,000 individuals on a normal any given year, unfortunately is going to not take place this year. But with Comic-Con, I've not heard anything yet as far as digital-wise, so I'm hoping that there will still be, because just imagine if they were still even to host a digital event, all the trailers and all the type of things they could do within that environment still and create a nice and actually truly cool video event.
Well, I mean, that's what Comic-Con is known for. It's known for all the trailers and all the the Marvel stars coming together, Supernatural, Warner Brothers, whatever it might be. All these people coming together, the exciting new announcements, the new shows from Netflix. Like, there's all these things that happen, and this is probably a really bad time for comic book retailers too, because they're the ones that kind of make a lot of money at these trade shows, especially Comic-Con, because it's so huge. And this is with the news that Diamond Publishing is no longer putting things out. Dark Horse is not going to be doing things till they're able to print and distribute again. Marvel has been canceling so much. It's not just a bad time for the film industry, but this is also a bad, announcement for the comic book industry in itself.
But I will say this, my friend, that with in case of you didn't hear as far as the latest updates from these distributors, DC is going to find its own distributors and might start sending out comic books back to comic book vendors as early as late April. And with Diamond hearing that and hearing that news and whatnot, stated, you know what, we're going to go ahead and reevaluate things and start sending out things possibly as early as mid-May. So by mid-May, we could have things as far as from a comic book standpoint and a distribution standpoint, somewhat more realized. I'm not going to say back to normal because nothing's going to be back to normal for quite some time. With a comic book distribution, looks like some distribution type battles are going to be set up between DC and Diamond. And, you know, like I said, that could mean that new issues and new episodes could be on their way soon to comic vendors worldwide, which would be great, which again, like you said, would be something that would be helpful if promoted properly on a Comic-Con video type format.
Well, it's funny. This thing with Diamond is really an issue they created for themselves. You know, I don't know how, you know, I get it. You know, the COVID thing is serious. They don't want their employees getting sick or whatever it is, but they're working in their warehouse. You know, they're pretty isolated. All they're doing is shipping comics out. So, I mean, I'm curious how much thought went into the decision not to distribute. Now they've created a trade war with one of their biggest clients. So it feels very weird to me, and I'm curious how much thought went into that whole process. But it's just kind of ironic now that they are now in a bidding war, I guess, because of something they did.
It is interesting to watch as a whole as far as the comic book industry, and I think the very livelihood of the comic book industry lies in the balance on what these distributors and what these manufacturers, aka DC, Marvel, Dark Horse, and whatnot, decide to do going forward. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But as a entity, Gamescom is going to become digital for this year, and Comic-Con, as of now, which I'm hoping will be changed, will go to a digital event. And if it does change to that, we'll update you as soon as we can right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. What are your thoughts out there on Gamescom, Comic-Con, and everything we've talked about so far? Give us a heads up, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, I wanted to ask you real quickly about Peacock. It's kind of up. It's kind of like in a beta stage right now. There's certain users allowed to go ahead and already see and use the service right now. The free, all the stuff they're talking about as far as a pay service, and then they've got a free option as well. Those I don't think are up quite yet, but they already started debuting teasers and trailers for some of their shows. And let me give you a listing of some of their new shows that they're talking about. Revised Saved by the Bell, Punky Brewster, Psych 2 movie coming out, AP Bio is coming out for another season, Angeline, which is going to be a limited series, Brave New World, which Alden Ehrenreich from Solo, a Star Wars story, he is going to be a part of it as far as Brave New World is concerned for that movie. It's not a overwhelmingly impressive lineup. It's not an overwhelmingly interesting lineup. I think basically Peacock is going to try and, whatever they have in the queue, whatever they have in the library as far as NBC and Universal stuff already that they can feed off of is what they're going to rely upon. So I want to ask you, Peacock is out pretty much in the same month as Quibi. And both these, startups are coming out at a time where there's a lot more eyes on it. But the problem is once everything gets back to kind of a normalized state, or whatever the new normalized state is going to be, are the eyes going to be on Quibi and even more so Peacock, especially with HBO Max coming out?
So I've actually read a lot of interesting reviews about Quibi, and from what I'm gathering, a lot of people don't like it. They like it kind of contradicts the whole binge culture. Like you can't sit there and watch an entire show and really feel like you got anywhere with it. So that's like the as far as the reviews I'm reading from IGN and Polygon goes. As for Peacock, I think they're relying heavily on their catalog of past shows, right? Because a show as big as Seinfeld, right, is something that they are kind of banking on. I'm sure they have the Seinfeld writers lined up for something. They're probably trying to get another season of Seinfeld put on. And they're really, I think right now, as far as new content goes, they're kind of really banking on nostalgia. And that's something that we've talked about a lot. Is nostalgia enough to put the wind into the sails of a new streaming company? I guess that's the biggest question here.
And then you also got to talk about whatever they have in their library, the Fast and Furious movies that they've actually shown as part of their trailer, trying to hype it up. Also, I think they have The Office back, if I'm not mistaken, from Netflix. I think if that's where it goes, I think that's one of their big foundational pieces, because The Office proved to be such a huge foundational piece for Netflix. So that's something that they want to go ahead and entice people to come in. But their new stuff, their new movies, their new shows, I know some of them have been delayed because of what's going on with coronavirus. And same thing for HBO Max. HBO Max, when it comes out and when it debuts later this year in a not too distant future, that also will have shows that will be, that they were planning on going ahead and being at launch that are not going to be at launch because of COVID-19 and all that. But I'm just not impressed what I see. So I'm not sure I want to go ahead and put any or invest any money into it. I'm curious though. One of the things that they are doing that is smart is they're offering a free portion to give you a taste of it before you decide to go ahead and, you know what, I want to go ahead all in on everything that they've got at Peacock. So I asked my friend, offering a free service along with a premium service, is that a good idea for Peacock? I think it's a good idea outside of just a normal 14 to 30 day trial.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I wouldn't mind trying out. I'm intrigued enough by it, and if they're putting new content on there by writers from shows that have been successful, it's something I would definitely be interested in checking out. But at the same time, like what is it that's going to pull me in and lock me into Peacock as opposed to me just jumping services when I want to watch something? I think that's the big question that a lot of these streaming services need to ask. And with Peacock, they really are banking on people wanting to watch continuations of old shows. And are they going to have the whole back catalog of Saved by the Bell on there? What does this all look like? It's what is it that's going to keep me enticed with Peacock? Like once my 30-day trial is over, is there enough content to make me even want to pay for a month of it?
Well, it's not even going to have I don't think. Well, I'm sure the premium will have some type of trial, but you got to remember this. Peacock said it's going to advertise tiers, and one of the tiers is a free tier. So there will be content always available on this free tier that you can access at any time for free. But they will also have, of course, a lot more to offer with a premium tier, which I think, like you said, will have some type of free offer. But they're promoting that you can go ahead and just stay on Peacock whether you don't want to pay for it, period, or you want to go ahead and invest into it as a service.
Oh, well, I mean that's pretty nice. I know Funimation's app kind of does that same thing too. Like you can watch a certain amount of things for free, but it has ads on it. And if you want to pay for the premium, then they'll remove the ads and you get access to the entire library. So I do like that system. I do think that that's a great idea. But again, it's also, what is going to make me want to pay for the premium? That's, I'd love to see like a list of everything coming out on the Peacock so that I can kind of see, hey, is it something I want to continue paying for? Is it something I just want to sit around and enjoy the free trailers, or is it something, are they going to release something that's premium only and that's going to make me want to pay for the premium after my 30-day trial is over? See, that's something that HBO it does very well. After your 30-day trial is over, you can't, unless you're logging in with a different email address or different account, you can't have a free 30 days over and over again. They know like where the IP address is and what email addresses are being used. So when there's something like a season 2 of Westworld or season 3, you have to pay for that month. So I think that's kind of a clever-ish idea.
How would you know about this, sir? Been trying to skirt around the system per se?
Yeah, a few times, man. Game of Thrones, Westworld, and His Dark Materials, all these shows I want to watch.
Well, fair enough. That's the options that are out there for you for people who are interested in looking more into Peacock. Like I said, it's, I think, in a beta stage. Some users are actually going ahead and getting a chance to check it out right now. I'm sure that's going to be rolling out a lot more in the coming days, but technically it is kind of out right now. So it is Peacock. And again, if you want to check out some of the new shows that they have, the trailers that we've shown on our Pop Culture Cosmos social media on Facebook, you can go ahead and check out there. Again, if you're interested in Saved by the Bell and Punky Brewster sequels, the revising of these shows, Brave New World, that movie coming out, Site 2, the Site 2 movie, AP Bio, Angeline. It's not an overwhelmingly impressive lineup that's now available launch. But then again, if it's something that you're interested in, they do have Universal behind it. So you're going to be seeing a lot more Universal projects coming through it and coming to it. And, if you're interested in the Jurassic Parks, the Fast and Furious, I know they're going to be pushing those down the line. So as you see more and more properties from NBC Universal come to the Peacock network, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out and how that shapes up in comparison to the success already, 50 million plus viewers for Disney Plus. You've got Hulu out there. You've got Quibi, who's also a new entity trying to struggle to get into this marketplace. And of course, the big boy Netflix out there. So it's going to be interesting to see how this relates to what's going on within the realm of the streaming marketplace. And of course, with HBO Max on the way, that in this environment, which at a higher price point is going to be a tough sell right now for a lot of people who don't have the means to go ahead and afford it. That's going to be something that down the line we're going to see if people are willing to go ahead and invest in that or just stick with what they have and what they have when it comes to the streaming marketplace. What are your thoughts out there on Peacock and NBC Universal's streaming offering that's coming out there? It's actually out kind of around right now, but I know it's going to be advertising more in the near future, so you're going to be hearing a lot more about it coming up here in the coming months. What are your thoughts on Peacock? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, before we hit the break, my friend, I just wanted to go, coming up right now, wanted to go ahead and turn it over to my friend Noah Ian Fine with some more retro gaming thoughts. And then right after that, it is part 2 of our April TV update with Jessica Boggs from the TVRatingsGuide.com. So take it away, Noah Ian Fine, with some more retro gaming memories. And we're back to close out the show. It's the Pop Culture Cosmos. Want to thank so much Noah Ian Fine for sharing some more retro gaming memories, and also as well Jessica Boggs from the TV Ratings Guide for part 2 of our April TV update. My friend, before we head on out, I wanted to ask you real quick, Justice League Dark, it's one of 3 projects with J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot coming to HBO Max, something that I think a lot of comic book fans have been hoping would be materialized in some form or fashion as far as a structural TV series. This is something that we've seen with other fan favorite comic book series in the past year, with The Boys, with The Umbrella Academy, and so forth, that we've seen over the course of a year that have been very successful on streaming outlets. So I want to hear your thoughts on a Justice League Dark as it comes to HBO Max. As someone pointed out that the DC streaming service may be all but done, but HBO Max may have something on their hands within, let's say, next year when it finally comes out, with something that could be really something that could be something that is really worth going ahead and investing in at the higher price point of HBO Max.
Yeah, so I think that this whole contract between HBO and Warner Brothers is a great idea. I think that HBO is the right place to bring things like that to life. And if I were them, I would just get rid of the DC streaming service. Take all the cartoons and all the content from Warner Brothers, put it on HBO. That would be lucrative for both, right? Because you have content going to HBO and you're not having to have people worry about paying for two different services. On the side of Justice League Dark, I love that property. I love that comic book. I love Constantine is a great character, as I've talked about before on the show. But my big concern with this is because of the realism and the darkness of this show, it would have to either exist in its own universe or be tied in to the existing DCU. You could not, because I know that they would try to do something like the whole Infinite Earths thing where they try to cross over with Arrow. It cannot be something that would be able to exist in the current DC television universe. It would have to be either its own world or something that would tie in eventually to the DC universe on the big screen. What are your thoughts on that, though?
I would love to see it on the big screen personally, but since it's going to be an extended series now, I think it's something that they're going to go ahead and play it out on a series. Now, if it becomes successful, Warner Brothers and DC, they're more open, I should say, than Marvel was in the previous decade about crossing TV shows together and crossing TV shows with movies. I think they would be more open to it than Marvel was in the past. Now, Marvel going forward, you're going to see all these TV shows and all these movies intertwined with each other, and you're going to see all these characters come about now. But as we saw with the Netflix shows from Marvel, they weren't willing to go ahead and give them any kind of time, any kind of screen time on the big screen. So it is going to be something that if Justice League Dark becomes a hit on HBO Max, that I think is going to probably lead into something maybe for the big screen, because Warner Brothers doesn't have a lot of properties outside of the DC movie universe that they can really rely upon, that they haven't touched on already a lot. So I'm thinking that if Justice League Dark becomes that underground hit, or becomes that hit like let's say The Boys does, or The Umbrella Academy, or anything else that they've tried to put out there, I think that the Justice League Dark will be a series that they can rely upon, and could even see big benefits on, possibly even an upgrade to the big screen at some point in time with some of their characters. Like John Constantine, you talked about Constantine. I don't think that was such. In fact, I watched it again the other night with Keanu Reeves earlier, from early in the decade, 2005 or so, and I think it wasn't such a bad film. I thought it was a good film. I just think people couldn't really relate to it. But if you familiarize them more in a series format with his character, I think it's someone that could translate very well as far as being that type of draw-in material for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that Constantine just came out in the wrong time. We hadn't seen there weren't any superhero, like big superhero films back then. There was Spider-Man and those movies, but there wasn't really a lot of darker toned superheroes. And Constantine is kind of someone who straddles that line between anti-hero, superhero, and really is very supernatural. So I don't think that people were ready for that, because a few years after that we got Hellboy, and that was that one did okay. The first one with Guillermo del Toro's movie did okay, but I just don't think that people were ready for a hero like Constantine. That being said, I think Warner Brothers has a lot of faith in Constantine and what it can do. Like, that was their biggest selling property with Vertigo, and that's when Vertigo was absorbed and Constantine got brought into the existing DC comic book universe. And even now, like, they're planning this animated Justice League Dark movie that's going to close out all of the big animated universe they've been building for like the past 15 years. So they do have a lot of faith in this project, and I'm curious to see how it's going to tie together in the animated form. But if it is successful in animated form, I think that it could be done, as far as the real life version of it being incorporated into like the DCU or wherever they're going to go with it.
Yeah, I have a tendency to agree with you on that, because I think it's something that if it's done well and it's done right on an HBO Max format, which these streaming outlets, these streaming shows, and these streaming entities, are getting a little bit better budget wise. They're realizing that they have to have money put into it. So the look and the feel and the acting and the presence of them are becoming higher and higher profile. So I think that if it's done well enough, we could see, this Justice League Dark become a cornerstone of HBO Max. Could be a reason for a lot of people out there to spend that extra money, which we were worried about, like I said before on the beginning, earlier part of the show where I talked about how it's going to be hard for a lot of people to afford HBO Max because it is coming out at a higher price point. They aren't shying away. They aren't trying to go ahead and tell people, hey, go ahead, get it a little. No, they're telling you to go ahead and pay the extra money for it. And if they're going to have stuff like Justice League Dark come out next year, that could be something that's very valuable for them, and also could be a way for people to go ahead and say, you know what, I can relate to that, and there are more new characters I'd like to see in a bigger format or an expanded format. So yeah, Justice League Dark is a great idea, and plus backed by the Bad Robot Studios with J.J. Abrams kind of having his fingers somewhere in that, could be a great idea. And then also wanted to mention as well, The Shining being another streaming property that they're going to go ahead and try and introduce as far as is concerned, whether it's a reboot of the movie or into like a limited series or whatnot. They're going to go ahead and delve into that world as well. So we're seeing all these attempts and all these ideas by big name producers, big name directors, big name artists and actors out there being put onto the smaller screen with these streaming outlets. So these ideas that they couldn't get through maybe onto a big screen format is becoming a reality on the smaller screen format. So it's good to see all these attempts that are being made. In some cases, like you and I think already with the Justice League Dark, if it's done well, could be a big winner for HBO Max and Warner Brothers.
Yeah, and it's also like it's a great way to tell this type of story because Justice League Dark is something that has many facets, many angles, many layers to it. These characters, Swamp Thing, Constantine, I forget what the Edrigor the Demon, I think his name is. Like there's a lot of things. There's a lot of layers to that story and a lot of layers to those characters. So I feel like that would take a long time to develop, and I'd rather see it over the course of like 10 to 12 episodes as opposed to a 1.5 to 2 hour movie. I think that could work really well. It would be cool. Then again, then it'd have to be tied in with the thing. I don't know. I think Matt Ryan would be a good Constantine, but I also know that they had Colin Farrell pinned for it for a while. I don't know if anything ever came of that, but this also makes me wonder if Guillermo del Toro's Justice League Dark project is dead too. This is a property I really, really like, so I just want to see it taken care of.
What are your thoughts out there on Justice League Dark heading, along with a couple other projects from J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot Productions, heading to HBO Max probably sometime next year, starting sometime next year when they get that started? What are your thoughts on that and more when it comes to HBO Max? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, before we head on out, just want to go ahead and say thank you again for listening to all of our shows. It's going to be a great week coming up here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. If you want to check out also as well on our Pop Culture Cosmos, everywhere you get your podcast, the Lakers Fast Break shows. In fact, we've got a special NBA 2020 mock draft coming with not one, not two, but not three, but four. Not one, not two, not three, but four great NBA draft experts. We're all going to do a mock draft from 1 to 30. We're looking forward to it. That's going to be coming up this week. Inside Sports Fantasy Football, we're also going to be doing a special NFL draft episode. So look forward to that. More great Lakers Fast Break episodes and more coming this week to the Pop Culture Cosmos channel, and also the Lakers Fast Break channel and Inside Sports Fantasy Football channel separately on their own podcast outlets. My friend, it's been a great episode. Cannot thank you enough for hanging around. Another episode this week. Any last thoughts on the way out?
Yes, I have been playing the Final Fantasy VII remake, so I'd love to chat about that on our next episode.
I had actually thought about that. In fact, that's what I was going to try and talk about last week on a Pop Culture Cosmos. But you know what? We'll save it for Friday's show, the PC Multiverse, because I know that's been a hot topic of conversation out there. Plus the scarcity of PlayStation 5s that could be happening upon release. So that's something also a lot to talk about as far as our PCC Multiverse, but other great pop culture subjects as well. So I'm looking forward to it, my friend. Cannot wait to see you on Friday for the next episode of the PCC Multiverse. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.